made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channel and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes and continue hustling. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Chiropractic Rocks, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, doTERRA, Sherman College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, the Influencer Authority Podcast Training, and Prime Spine Consulting. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 335 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I am your co-host, Luke Millette, and here's your host, Jim Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Keith Hwa-Sung. And if you want to hear more about legacy, marketing, and the truth of chiropractic, stay tuned. All right, welcome back. This is another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. Really excited for this one. This is episode 335, and there's going to be a lot of great conversations of reminiscing on 38 years of a career in chiropractic. And we were just talking about the road that you would go on to go track down the history of chiropractic. And one of those places was Sarasota, Florida. But before we get into this, I'm coming in from seated today in Grand Junction, Colorado. Luke is coming in from Ann Arbor, Michigan. And Keith, where are you coming in from today?
Orlando, Florida.
Orlando, down there in the Sunshine State. But I
think it ain't sunshiny today. It's cold.
Well, I think they should call Colorado the Sunshine State because we get 300 days of sunshine a year. But jumping into this episode, before we have this time with you, Keith, I'm just going to set some foundation for what we do and why we do it. We do support subluxation and innate intelligence in the vernacular of chiropractic, which I think is essential for the future of chiropractic. And as you were talking earlier about dynamic essentials and speaking there, I think that that's a really important thing to touch on is, you know, the fundamentals of chiropractic is the languaging. So we do protect free speech in chiropractic. And that's a really important thing. After we've done 1,000 interviews, we really believe that people need to understand chiropractic from a freedom of speech perspective. And then we do protect the sacred trust. And if you guys don't know what that is, and you've been watching what we've been doing for a long time, you probably have an idea of what that is, because every time I do a show, I tell you to go Google it if you don't know what it is. But I think that there's a lot of philosophy. The profession is rich in philosophy. And I believe that, Keith, you have done a great deal to perpetuate philosophy and to give more of a meaningful association for chiropractic when it comes to branding and how easy it is for people to understand the profession. And with 38 years of being, as they say, in the trenches, I think that chiropractic is one of the only professions that says in the trenches. But welcome to our show, man.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah. And it's really powerful. I was mentioning to you off the show before we got going is, if you guys haven't heard our first interview with Keith, go check it out. Go to chirohustle.com and check out. There's a search field there. You can search for Keith Hwa-Sung, and you can see the first interview that we've done. And it's one of the top 5 interviews that we've ever done. I was letting him know that it's right up there with Les Brown, Bruce Lipton, Grant Cardone, some of the bigger names that we've had a chance to be associated with to tell that chiropractic story. And just getting one person like a Grant Cardone or a Les Brown to talk about chiropractic is a massive accomplishment in my book. But I was also telling you about the first time I met you at a symposium back in Davenport, Iowa for Palmer and the ICA, how I felt about meeting you. And I was like, man, having Keith as somebody that we can connect with to tell the chiropractic story is going to co-brand and give more equity to chiropractic. So I want everybody to know that stuff. Go check out that episode. And but leading into this one, what's been going on with you, man? What's new? What's the new word that you've been doing with people?
Well, business as usual. You know, going out, communicating the story to groups, one-on-one. I spend a lot of my time going out teaching this message to what I call medical groups, medical schools, medical conferences. They're not the enemy. They have a warped model, I'm not there to combat. I'm not there to trash. Most of them are just as well caring as the typical chiropractor. They just they're on a weird path. And so I go out and I communicate this, and I just stick to baseline physiology with a philosophical lens, use information found in their own books. And I've been taking young docs with me to these events and saying, now sit here and watch what I do. And they're always kind of, I don't say impressed that it's really simple to do. Again, if you go in combative us versus then there's going to be a problem. And then I'm gradually teaching these young docs to, okay, now it's your turn. You're going to go. I'm going to introduce you. You're going to do the exact same thing. And you know what? If you can have a young DC, youngly minted DC, standing in front of board certified MDs, community chiropractic story, the excuses are gone. They can get in front of everyone. So that's probably half of what I've been doing. 2 years ago, got derailed by COVID. And I'll be honest with you, I was disappointed. And let me tell you something, COVID probably put more challenges into human beings and us as you can possibly imagine. And I don't know, people just gave up. And I said, okay, take a breath and figure ways around it. And we did stuff like this. There's ways around it. I've done seminars with masks on if I had to. I wasn't going to let something stop me from doing it. And I don't travel globally as much as I used to. And I was kind of slowing down even before COVID. I mean, I'm getting older, I'm a grandfather now. I started doing this. I couldn't legally, drink. And now I'm a grandpa. And so I just continue on, and really, I've had many, many chances along the way, many opportunities to do this, do that, and I've just always kind of stuck to that, going out, taking this message, physiology, philosophy, putting it out there for people to choose. And that's all I've ever done. That's all I ever really intend to do. And I was telling you, off air, I did a group talk down in Sarasota last week. And I said, my wish is either to die with my family someday, by my side, or to finish a lecture somewhere and then just go. That would be like the ultimate, he died after finishing. Now, halfway through, that would really stink. But that's all I've ever done along the way. I'm writing, I'm putting things together. One thing that just happened this last week, and I was going to say this towards the end, but I am partnering with the ICA, BJ's ICA, to do a global marketing campaign with all of my materials. They invested in my program last week. And then also we put all our materials, are in the process of getting approval at the Sherman Health Center. They have screens and things like that, putting all my materials, because it's really one big patient clinic in there as well. And that happened literally 24 hours apart. So I'm very excited about working with that. The ICA is turning around, and we're both going to reach people for ICA members, as well as get ICA members more involved and recruit new IC members. So that's really what I'm doing. And like I said, things almost seem back to normal, not quite. There's still some people licking their wounds, and I try to encourage them, chiropractors, of course, get right back out there. And I realize, if I'm talking to someone in, Oregon or New England, the atmosphere is a little different than Florida. Do what you can do. Haven't shut us down yet, and I see no intention of doing so. You just got to change gears a little bit, and when you start doing things like what you're doing, where you're doing internet and podcasting, boy, you can reach a lot more people. I think of a lot of time I don't want to say I wasted, but used, driving and flying and stuff like that. So that's really it, Jim, and just doing what I've always done, and I've always kind of stuck to that, and that's what I intend to do with my last breath.
So some of the things you touched on there kind of lead into the next question. How have things changed for you recently, for better or for worse? And what are some things that you've learned from it? What are some takeaways from all the changes you've had to adapt to?
I found that most people crave human interaction one way or the other, even if it's this, okay? I'd much rather be sitting in the same room talking to you guys, much rather. But this is the next best thing. And I'd rather do this than say, well, if I can't be in the same room with you, having a cup of coffee, just forget it. So people crave that. Number two, I have never seen a fervor or a thirst globally for people wanting to know more about immune system physiology. We have some public sites on our website where they can download some immune system type stuff. And that's a big part of what we do. We have public downloads and stuff like that. And I probably last year in a typical month had more downloads and requests in a month than I would have in 5 years typically. And I get a lot of downloads to a point where I almost overload the web. So people are searching for this, desperately. And again, we don't need to give false hope. We just need to, again, stick to that physiology about this is how the body works. This is how the nervous system works. This is how the immune system works. Here's spinal health, systemic health. Here's the role that chiropractic plays in that. And we don't even have to say chiropractic and immune system. It's inferred. It's part of that piece of the puzzle, So I don't have to. My mechanic doesn't have to tell me that a bad tire alignment can effectually affect the engine, but it does. It's understood. So I just had one of my sons wrecked his car and just got it fixed, and we actually had that discussion about how engine wear affects the engine. So I've always been about the immune system. It's what got me into chiropractic, and I will continue talking about the immune system, immune function, immune physiology. Those are really the two things. And they've always been that way, but it's become more pronounced in the last year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah, listening to the way you discuss this, it gives me a lot of it feels good, man, because I find a lot of times I'm one of these guys that supports chiropractic from the outside that's not a chiropractor, that found out that there was a major message behind this. And I correlate a lot of my conversations with people about how the organ system functions off of the immune system and functions off the nervous system, goes through the channel of the spinal canal, and has an impact on vitality. And that's about as quick and as easy as I could tell somebody that all of this functions together. And if one thing's out of alignment, as a subluxation is, it has a huge effect on all aspects of a quality of life. And and I know that you said some stuff about working with Sherman also. We've been in partnership with them for several months now as a sponsor for Chiro Hustle. So I love the leadership team out there with Dr. Edwin Cordero, who is also a really popular episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast, and also Dr. Neil Cohen and Dr. Brian Dooley. All of them as a team have supported what we've been doing for quite some time. So it's really cool to see that you're getting some partnership with them.
And I've known all three of those for forever, way back. At least 25 years. So we go way back. Smart, full of integrity, and focused on the mission. And I've seen, because I've been in every school in the world except one, and I've seen people get into academia, and all of a sudden it changes them. All of a sudden it goes to their head. All of a sudden now they become a big shot. And I've watched, and I was just talking with Dr. Dooley, who's the one that kind of championed the whole thing in the student center. The further up the ladder they go, the more of a servant they become, which is what I've always wanted to be. So go ahead.
Well, I was just going to shift gears, but if you want to keep going on that path for another minute.
Gears.
Okay. A new question.
Like Chiro Hustle coffee cup.
Well, one of the new questions that we've developed lately is one of my favorites. Who have been some of your mentors or some of your inspirations? Who are the people that you've looked up to that helped you become the version of yourself that you are today? And they don't have to be chiropractic related.
I'll tell you, I'll give you a couple of chiropractors that did not mentor me, but certainly had an influence on me. And the first one was a guy named Dr. John Boutwell from Augusta, Georgia. And heard him do like a patient appreciation night with maybe 5 offices in Charleston, South Carolina. 86, 87. I was still recovering, and he just had a huge impact on me. And I saw him at DE, I don't know, 6-7 years ago, and we still chatted about that. It was just, we didn't exchange more than 10 sentences, but it just had an impact. Certainly Fred Barge, And Dr. Fred and I got to do a couple of lectures together. And I remember the first one we did, we're riding on the way to the event. And he said, do we need to talk about what we're going to talk about? You're going first. You're going to do an hour, and I'm going to do an hour, hour and a half. And I said, I guess not. He goes, I guess we'll just see how it goes. I hope we don't conflict. It was if we had rehearsed it. It was if we had rehearsed it for like a year. It literally was flawless. And then we go back to the hotel and sat up till maybe 4 or 5 in the morning. And he just talked. And that's a guy who was was part of Legacy. He was part of the BJ. I mean, his dad way back, all the way back to, Dee Dee. And so Fred Barge, certainly Sid Williams, who had me down at DE in 91 and had me come down to do a breakout session with maybe 20, 30 people on a Sunday, which meant 18 of them were hungover. DE was a little different back then. And at the last, literally with like 2 hours left, the keynote speaker didn't make it, and they asked me to keynote 2 hours out, and I couldn't have been more terrified. And in fact, I'll be honest with you, I actually wet my pants before I went on stage, and actually had to run the room and change because I was so scared. But it went. I mean, I was using the old plastic overhead, type things, and he grabbed me afterwards, and he kind of sat me down. I thought he was gonna, and he goes, and I'm not gonna try to imitate his voice because I could hear it in my brain. He goes, will you please do me and Miss Nell a favor? Just keep doing what you're doing. You were born to do this. And I'm only like a couple of years into doing this. And so it was that charge. It was like, you're special. Just keep doing this. And so those are the three. And then there's probably some outside. I love reading autobiographies. My son and I are reading Lee Iacocca's autobiography. I've read it 20 times, and I admired the man for what he did. My son's reading it now. I love Carroll Shelby. Never met him, but a captain of automotive design, stuff like that. Just had a indirect influence on precision and detail, and just that pursuit of perfection over and over and over. I've done tens of thousands of lectures, and I still practice. I still practice on a weekly basis. I'm still working on it. It's still not good enough. Roy Sweat, who we just lost a couple of weeks ago, was still practicing his technique, after 70 years. And I love that never being satisfied. It's not good enough. It's not, you don't want to beat yourself up, just constantly working on perfecting. And so those are the kind of people that have had influence, on me. And the last one was Admiral Grace Hopper, who was the first female admiral of the Navy. And she was kind of the father, mother, however you want to say that, politically correct, of the computer age in the Navy. Got to meet her one time and was just a precision about the same kind of thing. And she said something to me, that wasn't privately. She said, you know what? You manage things, you lead people. You don't manage people, you lead people. And you lead people by example. You serve, you become a bigger servant. So that's a mouthful, Luke.
You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Chiropractic Rocks, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, doTERRA, Sherman College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, the Influencer Authority Podcast Training, and Prime Spine Consulting. Let's hustle.
No problem. You touched on something again in your answer that also leads to the next one. If you had to pick one thing about yourself to change or improve, what would it be and why?
I've had some health challenges in the last year, and I'm working on it, and it's not coming fast enough. Rough year for me. I lost my mom. I was executive of the estate. Had to take care of a lot of things that I wasn't prepared for. Stress got to me, blood pressure, or put me in the hospital, to be honest with you. Had some problems with the kidneys, and last July met with a kidney doctor, and he said, you're in late stage 3. And he said, you don't be alarmed, but stage 3 is right next to stage 4. And right 4 is next to dialysis. And like I said, I had it was a rough year, put some weight on that, and I'm process taken off. But anyway, he put me on a plant-based eating plan. It's not a vegetarian. He says just get a lot of plants and vegetables, no drugs. He said, I hate drugs. My goal is to get you off drugs. And literally inside of 10 weeks, blood pressure completely normalized. I'm back to normal kidney function. I've dropped about 40 pounds. I'd like to drop about 40 more and get some energy back up. So that would be the one thing right now, because and I'm still carrying a lot of muscle weight that I'd like to get rid of. I don't need it anymore. I still lift. I just don't need it. And I'd love to be down, and I'm going to keep dropping. So that would be the one thing, the continued improvement in health. It just doesn't happen fast enough.
Well, as you go through this journey, if there's anything I can do to support you, I would love to be able to just, chat with you a few more times.
Sure.
About what you're going through, just because I'm on some really cool stuff that I'm doing to improve my vitality and health. And
Yeah.
I believe that we can all be advocates for each other, and that support is one of those things. They say right now that attention is the new currency, but I also believe that friendship and fellowship is also a very deep pocket of currency as well.
Sure. But that's the main thing. I mean, I always wish I had more time just to myself, and I don't. And I try to make it, you carve little pockets of time here and there, and you enjoy it. So anyway.
Well, you were talking about some health challenges and familial challenges, and I think that a lot of people have experienced that over the past 655 days. And it's been something that a lot of people are probably, the things that you were willing to share there. I'm sure that you're not alone. I'm sure that a lot of people have had challenges with people that they love passing away, and they've had their own health challenges because of the levels of chemical, physical, and emotional stress that's been put onto us. So thank you for sharing so openly with people, because I think that a lot of people, they have those feelings and thoughts, but they don't willingly share that, because I think that a lot of people want to just, they want to think that everything's perfect, and it's not. And we've all dealt with a lot of stuff. I lost 2 brothers and my mom in the past year and a half. So I know the terrible feeling of managing other people's lives once they pass on, and trying to do the right thing and speak for other people. And that's why I think what you and I and Luke all do so well is we speak for the chiropractic profession. And that takes a high level of mental acuity. It takes a high level of historical reverence. It takes a high level of understanding the practitioners for who they are. But I always let people know, like, hey, if you want to get to know what's going on with you, go see a chiropractor, because it's not the other doctors. As you were explaining, you had your own health challenges. They didn't want to put you on something, but they helped you co-manage yourself with your own behavior to get a better outcome. So I think that that's something really true, is we can have these feelings and ideas and thoughts and emotions, but we really have to take care of us, because if we don't take care of us, then we're no good to nobody.
Correct.
Let's talk a little bit more about your relationship with Sid Williams, DE. How many of these lectures of all the DEs that you've been to, how many have you been able to chance to speak at?
All of them that I've ever been to, I've spoken at. I've never gone just as a vendor or anything like that, or as a participant. Although there's been a couple where the Georgia Council has me come in to do breakouts for CE like the day before, then I hang around. And something like that. How many DEs? The first one was 91, and I still have the badge for it somewhere. It would have been 91, and it was at the old Waverly Hotel, I think. I've probably done just under 30 DEs over the years, I guess, something like that. I'm guessing,
That's
probably,
so cool.
Probably 28 to 30.
I haven't been to one yet.
Oh.
That's why I was curious, because I need to make my way down there to Marietta and I need to attend one of those and see what all this DE magic is about.
Yeah, you do.
So maybe we can take a little bit of a deeper dive into your involvement with the ICA. Like what kind of things would you be responsible for, or what's the level of your involvement like?
Well, doctors that buy my materials are using them in their office and on social media and websites, and they're simply digital referenced data, because there's so much great data on chiropractic or that supports chiropractic. It's buried in magazines, it's buried in journals, and it's written in PhDs, where you got this guy with 3 PhDs trying to impress this guy with 4 PhDs. And even the typical doctor goes, I don't know, what the hell is this? I've just been able to take it, distill it down to something where people can handle it. And so offices that use it have done very well in not only using it to educate their patients, but then to put it in their hands digitally where they can pass it on. So it becomes a pass along tool. Well, I've worked with several groups over the years, and the state groups have bought the stuff from me, saying, you know what, let's use this to market for our members, which organizations, state and national, should be doing. They should be marketing for their members and not just holding golf tournaments and CE type things, but also to attract new members. And so the ICA bought my entire program. We're building the set out now. We're customizing everything. And then I put together a plan where they're just going to have it on social media, on their websites. They're going to do member mailouts, different groups. And they're going to basically do what I teach an individual doctor to do with the materials on a more global basis. Heavy emphasis in the United States, but some of their counterparts overseas that I have relationships with are going to be doing it. And what we're going to do is we're going to follow the health calendar, which we do for the subluxation outreach campaign. And it's just kind of like, in February, there's a national health calendar where every month, every week's like national, like October's breast cancer, February's heart health. Well, we just take it a chiropractic event, our chiropractic topic. February is heart health month. We're going to talk about cardiovascular, lung, respiratory, and the nervous system, and so on and so on and so on. And so the materials, it's all kind of timed and planned, and they're simply going to put this content out there. And again, making people aware of there's this really great information that supports spinal health, systemic health. You've probably just never seen it before. And I know that I still think back to when I had my episode with chiropractic, 38, 39, whatever it was, years ago. And I came back from it. It was all immune system. Didn't have Google back then, didn't have the internet. And yet all the brochures in the office were all sciatica, joint pain, disc, and stuff like that. And I remember asking my doctor, I said, how come I'm finding this stuff in the libraries. How come you don't have it? How come you don't writing on the walls? And there just seems to be this disconnect. And I still say that the typical chiropractor, even that understands this, just doesn't know what they have their hands on, and maybe because they've never read it, maybe they've never, I don't know. But the idea is we don't need to make, again, outlandish claims. Show the research, so spinal health, systemic health. I can't tell you how many conversations I've had in the last, 5, 7, or 8 years with moms and dads talking about forward head posture, text neck. And, now you have 3-year-old girls being diagnosed with chronic fibromyalgia because they've grown up with a handheld phone in front of their face, and that effect. And you know what? It's a really easy leap to go, why that's affecting their brain, their emotions, their depression, their developmental. It's neurological. It's in their neck. It's an easy thing to have. Well, why can't we have those conversations on a global basis? We should be. It's not controversial. It's not like anybody's going to, no. There's no relationship between forward head posture and mental health. It's huge. My oldest daughter, the one that, again, just got back from Colorado skiing, she is a psychiatric nurse in private practice. She will be Dr. Epps by October in psychiatric. And she grew up in chiropractic. I mean, she's actually referred chiropractors to people to become chiropractors in school. And she goes, Dad, I have yet to see any one of my patients, any one of them, that doesn't have severe forward head posture. I mean, it's not subtle. And there's that relationship. So she's written a few papers. We're going to collaborate on some more papers. I know that in mental health, boy, we're off on a tangent here, Luke. I know that 10 years ago, me talking to mental health professionals about the relationship between spinal health and that, man, you might as well. And now it's coming full circle. They're exploring it, they're seeing it because the information's absolutely undisputable.
Like you said, your website is getting a lot more traffic and your materials are getting a lot more attention because the things that you've been doing for the past 38 years are now catching up with what is necessary for people to have access to.
Here's what shocks me, and this is gonna sound self-congratulatory. I don't mean it to be, but about once a month, sometimes more often, I'll get an order. Someone will buy my packet, and it's several $100s. And I contact them and say, I didn't get your customization information. They go, what custom for what? They're just regular people. They're just regular people who are searching, who find this packet of information and actually buy it just for the research. And trust me, it's more than what they would pay a chiropractor to evaluate them. And I refund the money. I mean, I always give it back. But they're willing to spend hundreds of dollars just for data. That blows me away. And yet, and again, I'm not being critical of chiropractors, but I see what they post, I see what and it's easy stuff that is safe. In the same realm, I'm going to get off on a tangent here. I make jokes about COVID, and I make jokes about that little guy, the booster shot guy, but I don't get off on a tangent on COVID because I would rather talk about subluxation. And I've watched guys go under just chasing that COVID conspiracy. And I go, oh, stick to what you do. People will figure out that other part. I mean, you can have conversations about it. Don't make it your mission in life to not COVID. Stick with and that's my advice to any chiropractor. Stay in your lane,
Well, I think that it's really important that people are starting to market from your toolkit and to start using your resources. And like I said, people are positioned because they want to get the content that they need to get their answers answered. And I think that that's one of the most valuable things that you have attributed as a resource for things. So if there's ever a time where you want to have that live on the Chiro Hustle website, we'd be happy to make sure there's a link on there for people to get access to your work. We just love supporting with people that do the right thing for this beautiful profession of chiropractic, and we think it's essential, and we think that people need access to these types of conversations. That's why we've been hyper consistent. And now that since the whole 655 days of this thing has been going on, everybody else has come into podcasting, everybody else has come into Zoom meetings and Zoom recordings. Well, before that, I was like knocking on every door saying, hey, who wants to do an episode of this interview stuff for chiropractic? And now we've become a juggernaut because of the content we've created and the consistency we put into it. And not self-congratulatory either, but I think it needs to be reckoned, and people need to understand that a conversation like this, somebody might not ever get access to this information on any other resource that's available to them. Mm-hmm. So doing this is a huge educational anchor for chiropractic, and it's a huge resource for people to get access to good information and researched content and stuff that they can use to educate themselves with, but the general public as well. And I can't thank you enough, Keith, for doing what you've done and being on our show for the second time.
This is the third time.
Third time. Okay. So there we go. It's a trio then. So you've been on 3 times now, and it seems like you've always done something to connect with the profession on a more grand scale, and you've done stuff to work with the organizations that have been around, like the ICA and Sherman College, that are really anchors to the truth of the profession. So if people want to know more about what you're doing, Keith, and they want to be able to get in touch with you, where can we send them to get more connected to you?
I'll give you 3 contacts. One is my website, which is just my first and last name, www.keith, Keith, Wassung, WASSUNG.com. They can email me at keith@keithwassung, KEITH, and then they can call me. I'll give you my cell. I don't mind. I get enough crazy calls, it doesn't matter to me. 843-743-8351. a doc or other could call me and talk. They don't have to buy anything from me. I'm here to help the profession. I try to get out every day on the profession and not just post content, but post tidbits and communication stuff. And I've had people go, "Why do you do? Why do you give that stuff away?" And I go, Why shouldn't I? I mean, I still have stuff I can sell that helps sustain my lectures and stuff like that. But you'll never see me post something then go, "Now for the real secret, click this link." And then find me on Facebook. I think there's only one Keith Wassing in the world. And so they can find me easily on Facebook. Shoot me a message, we'll talk, that kind of thing.
Well, I'll go ahead, Luke.
I was just going to say, and with that, we're just about at the edge of our time. And we just wanted to ask you if there was any like final closing remarks that you wanted to say that we didn't give you a chance to say yet.
I think we said it, we've never planned this. I always look at the questions, but I never like have an agenda. I just see where it's going to go. And, we have this sacred trust. And if you don't know what that is, you're listening, look it up. And we get up every day and we're excited about the sacred trust. And I'll say, how much time I have? 30 seconds?
Yep.
Okay. When you're a kid growing up, coaches and dads would say, there's nothing worse than being a quitter. Nothing worse. I disagree as an adult. It's worse to hang around and do it half-assed. I'd rather see someone quit and move on to something else. And because I almost quit 3 times in my first 10 years. And I learned how to do some things to make sure I never got to that point. Because I ever get to a point where, this just becomes a drudgery. Not that it's not hard work. I'm done. I'll find something else. I'll go sell Tupperware or something like that. But working at half-assed is worse than being a quitter. And sometimes you need to take a break. Sometimes you need to back off. Sometimes you need to reboot. We all need to do that. But soldier on, and we're going to see a different profession in years to come. It's already happening. I almost feel like maybe COVID kind of thinned the herd a little bit just to make sure that, we had the best, the brightest, and the most dedicated to move this on. Thank you for your time. Thanks for doing this show.
Well, you're episode 335, and it's a real value to me to be connected with you. And thank you for being our guest today. And this is it's definitely a legacy piece for us to have you on again. And just so thankful for the opportunity. And I'll keep praying for you on your health and healing journey as to where you are physically and chemically with the things that have going on inside of you. So I want you to be around for a long, long time, brother.
Okay. Thank you.
We'll see you next time.
Okay.
Thanks, Keith.
Thanks.
Bye for now. Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.